car will explode if you shoot it in a certain spot, right? Well, how about the idea that natural products are always healthier? Some facts have been floating around so long that you just stop questioning them. Well, that's what I'm here to do today. From treating back pain to comforting a baby when they cry, I'm Mike with List 25, and join me as I debunk 25 well-known facts. 25. Sweden is organizing a sex tournament. When the news of a sex tournament in Sweden circulated on the internet, it's no surprise that it piqued many people's interests. If nothing else, the pure logistics of it all were fascinating. How could you judge a winner? Who was even eligible? And what exactly were they expected to perform? Disappointed for anyone who considers themselves a sex athlete, though, Sweden is not hosting a sex tournament. Apparently, the fake news originated with a Swedish strip club owner who submitted an application to the Swedish Sports Confederation for sex to become an official sport. Needless to say, that application was denied. But it was enough to spawn a cycle of news reaching far and wide across the world, getting a whole lot of people very excited. 24. Anteaters inhale their prey. Has anyone ever told you to slow down while you're eating? Oh my god, all the time. Next time they do, point them to anteaters. These sleepy mammals trawl through the dirt and grass to scavenge for, as their name suggests, ants, but also termites and other insects. And because they don't have teeth, anteaters consume their food whole without so much as a chew. But an anteater might take offense if you describe them as inhaling their food. There's actually a much more complicated process going on underneath the surface. Anteaters slurp up small rocks and other objects to help break down food inside their stomach. I have never been so glad to have teeth. 23. Penguins fall backwards when they look up at airplanes. This fact may have spread because the image of it is, well, pretty comedic. As the fact goes, when a plane flies overhead, penguins become so focused on it that they fall backwards. There's a little more to the story, though. It was first observed by British pilots who did in fact see penguins stumbling backward as they flew over, but it had nothing to do with their overconcentration. It was because planes flying at low altitudes generate an enormous amount of noise, which scares penguins and triggers them into panic, causing them to lose their happy feet. 22. Sealing up a wound by burning it. Here's something you won't see in a modern surgery theater: a naked flame underneath a wound to seal it up. But for centuries, in a time before stitches, precise instruments, and antibiotics were available, doctors believed it was the best way of stopping an infection. I mean, sounds kind of logical, right? If the wound is sealed up, then there's not much chance for bacteria to get in. Well, turned out to be wrong. Not only does it not work to prevent an infection, it actually makes it more likely for a wound to become infected because tissue is damaged. They had a hot idea, but unfortunately scientists sent it up in flames. 21. Grenades explode if you shoot them. Are you a gamer? Well, then you'll be familiar with certain mechanics and physics used in video games. One of those is that basically anything you shoot will blow up. Cars, fuel, grenades. Unfortunately, the real world doesn't quite work like that. While it is technically possible for a hand grenade to explode after being shot, it is incredibly unlikely. That's because a bullet colliding with a grenade doesn't automatically pull the pin, which is required to cause an explosion. It needs to penetrate deeply past a hard outer shell through the inside and ignite the detonator. Still, I'd actually rather keep those effects in video games. More fun. 20. You can shoot open a lock. Speaking of shooting things, you might have seen movies where policemen shoot open locks with their guns. It definitely saves the tedious process of picking it, but how realistic is it? As it turns out, not very. Any high-security padlock worth its salt should hold up to the direct impact of a bullet. In a series of experiments, a competitive shooter wasn't able to break through any high-security models. As for the low-security padlocks, though, that's actually a different story. Most of these broke open with a single shot. 19. Cars explode when you shoot them. Let's get back to making things explode. We can all agree there's nothing more exciting in an action movie than when the main character takes aim at a car and finds the perfect spot to hit it. That spot, of course, is the fuel tank, and it usually sends the car flying into the air with a fiery explosion. Sorry to burst your bubble, but this, too, isn't really possible. Gas tanks in most cars are incredibly well insulated, not specifically for bullets, but to protect against high-speed collisions. On top of that, even if a bullet did get through to the inside of the tank, a regular bullet doesn't carry enough force to actually set it alight. Has anyone told James Bond this? 18. Hypothermia always occurs in cold weather. When checking your body temperature, the number you are looking for is around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. If that number drops just a few degrees to below 95, call an ambulance. This is when the body can go into a state of hypothermia, slowly shutting down your organs, heart function, and soon leading to death. Contrary to a popular misunderstanding, though, hypothermia doesn't always happen when the temperature outside is cold. Things like excessive sweating or rain can also be enough to push your body into a hypothermic state. That's probably why mothers always tell their kids to stay out of the rain. 7. Tight bras can cause breast cancer. This next one concerns the women out there. Did you ever learn that there was a link between how tight your bra was and breast cancer? This common myth has been circulating for decades, probably because developing cancer can almost seem random. But breathe easy. There isn't any evidence backing up this claim. One study analyzed 590 cases of breast cancer over a period of 4 years and found that there was no correlation between bra wearing, cup size, or what kind of underwear worn with cancer. So you're free to wear a bra as tight as you want. 16. Washing with coffee will keep clothes dark. The internet is a weird and wonderful place. Search for an answer and you can stumble across a truly outlandish idea. For example, if you search WikiHow for how to keep your dark clothes from becoming light, one guide will tell you the secret is to use coffee. That's right, apparently adding an entire cup of brewed coffee is the magic ingredient for keeping those dark colors. However, a scientist has responded to this myth, claiming that it is wrong on 2 accounts. Firstly, in a normal rinse cycle, once all the water is pumped into the machine, the amount of coffee is so diluted that it basically has no effect at all. And secondly, if you're using a low water rinse, the coffee is actually more likely to stain your clothes rather than protect them. 15. Adding painkillers whitens your clothes. Okay, so according to the internet, coffee keeps clothes dark, but how about whitening them? For the second time, the answer isn't what you might think. Aspirin, the common pain medication used for moderate pains, is said to provide a spark of white to your clothes rather than bleach. And once again, science says, no. Acetylsalicylic acid, which is what aspirin is made up of, doesn't have any effect on clothes at all because it breaks down immediately when mixed with water. 14. You can get STDs from using public washing machines. If you're not lucky enough to have your own washing machine, then usually your only option is a laundromat. The only problem is that they often have a reputation for being dirty. But can they really cause STDs? First of all, the strong heat and powerful detergents are usually enough to get rid of most germs. At worst, a public washing machine leaves you exposed to the tiny risk of catching a common flu. But as for STDs, no, there haven't been any cases recorded or evidence of transmission from a washing machine. 13. Teething causes a fever. Newborn mothers are, understandably, a little paranoid. Suddenly taking on the responsibility of another life is a task no one can prepare you for. And between 4 and 7 months old, when a baby's first teeth begin emerging from their gums, is an especially difficult time. One enduring warning is that teething causes babies to break out into a fever or cause more serious conditions like diarrhea. But don't worry, new parents, this is not true. Any of those symptoms are still serious, but they're related to other illnesses, not the tiny teeth coming down through their gums. 12. Back pain should be treated with bed rest. Are you one of over 600 million people around the world who suffer from low back pain? If so, listen up. The most obvious remedy might seem to be to lay down, get rest, and avoid moving around too much. But in most cases, this can just make things worse. While it can be healthy to take a break from stressful activity, the solution is usually getting back to doing more activity, not less. That doesn't mean weight training or high-intensity exercise. However, moving around and stretching can be vital to recovery. 11. A mirror image reverses left and right. There are videos floating around on TikTok where a new generation seems to be discovering the wonders of mirrors. Despite some counterintuitive physics, though, they aren't in fact windows to a different dimension. When you stand in front of a mirror and raise your right hand, the copy of you looking back seems to raise its left hand, as if it's turned around to face you, flipped 180 degrees. But what you're actually seeing are the photons bouncing off a smooth reflective surface and meeting your eyes again, reversed back to front. Your brain fills in the blanks and assumes that this is a 180-degree rotation. 10. St. Bernards carry flasks of brandy. The name St. Bernard originates from a monastery in the Swiss Alps where this specific dog breed worked to rescue travelers in trouble. According to folklore, St. Bernards also transported brandy to mountain goers. That reputation can be traced back to a single painting where a St. Bernard was depicted with a barrel of whiskey around its neck. Unfortunately for climbers looking for a stiff drink to warm them up, this connection has no basis in reality. Monks working in that Swiss monastery have denied that whiskey was ever transported via canines, unless they're saving it all for themselves. 9. You will explode drinking soda with Pop Rocks. For a brief period in the 1970s and 80s, a craze swept the children of America, a type of candy called Pop Rocks that fizzled and crackled in the mouth. Back then, the myth was that if you swallowed a bunch of Pop Rocks and then drank a fizzy soda, it would be enough to make your insides explode. Given how Mentos react to Diet Coke, it isn't actually such a crazy idea. However, the rumor has been put to rest by the team at Mythbusters, who showed that after touching any kind of liquid, Pop Rocks simply fizzle out, dissolving rather than exploding. 8. The hole in Lifesavers is to prevent choking. Speaking of candy, where do those Lifesavers candies get their name from? According to one study, the hole in the middle is a safety mechanism to stop anyone from choking on them. That's not such a bad idea when you learn that over 27% of non-fatal choking incidents for children are caused by candy. However, it doesn't take much thinking to realize that making a hole in the middle isn't exactly the most effective way to bring that number down. The real reason was originally to stand out from the competition. And when production began, the inventor thought they looked similar to the life preservers that you throw out to someone drowning in the ocean, hence the name Lifesavers. 7. Tumbleweeds are native to America. More than anything, tumbleweeds are associated with the wild, wild west of the United States. But if you do a little digging, you'll learn that they aren't actually native to the American landscape. Their name actually might give that away, because they're known as Russian thistles, and come from Eurasia. They invaded America when people and agricultural products started moving to the New World in the 19th century. Since then, the species has damaged agriculture, injured animals, and played havoc on vegetation. But at least they provide some comic moments in films. 6. You should not comfort babies too much when they cry. Over the past few decades, though, as research has shown how big the long-term effects of a baby's first few years are, new parents can be cautious not to give them too much attention. According to one psychologist, though, there is no real concern. The main task of the first few months and years of a tiny human is to grapple with a new reality, learn who and what to trust, all while feeling protected. That means that there is no limit to how much attention a baby should get, and no such thing as spoiling them. Who wrote this study, a baby? 5. California was an island. With beautiful beaches, good weather all year long, and some of the most stunning parks in the country, California is a state like no other. And with the 5th largest economy in the world, for some Californians, breaking away from the US doesn't sound like such a bad idea. Well, once upon a time, back in the 16th century, California was actually depicted in maps as an island, tracing back to one map that was misdrawn by one Dutch geographer named Cornelis van Witvliet. It wasn't until more than a century later that the map was finally corrected. Sadly for proud Californians, it's not really an island. 4. The Founding Fathers were all Christian. There's a common idea that the US is a Christian nation, and that the Founding Fathers all shared that faith. But that's not quite true. Some of them were what's called theistic rationalists, meaning they believed in some kind of God, but they didn't belong to any particular religion. This gave them and their ideas a certain shape, like the principle of mutual respect for all different faiths. For the most part, though, the separation between church and state in the Constitution means that the government has to be neutral about religion. 3. Medieval people only drank alcohol. In most depictions of the medieval era, there's a lot of beer drinking in taverns and pubs. The idea is that, in many ways, alcohol was more commonly drunk than water. Some of that is backed by history. With the fall of the Roman Empire, much of the European infrastructure suddenly was left unmanaged, meaning that clean water became more difficult to access. Some people did in fact resort to beer rather than stomaching the dirty water. However, this wasn't the majority. And if you head to a bar on an average Saturday night out, you'll still see plenty of people choosing alcohol over water, but not for the same reasons. 2. Red cars cost more to insure. Red cars going faster is a well-busted myth. But what about the price of insurance? Some people believe that because of the flashy color, it might be an indicator for insurance companies that the driver is a little more dangerous. Speed demons can rest assured, though. If a red car is what you desire, there is no red insurance fee. Instead, the factors that are used by a company to calculate insurance are the type of car, the age of the driver, how often they drive, and where they drive. So your premium will be likely higher if you're an 18-year-old driving a red Ferrari, but it has nothing to do with the color. 1. Natural is always better. These days, the word natural is one of the best marketing tools. For good reason, most of us have come to associate artificial chemicals and high-processed foods or products as unhealthy. While this is sometimes the case, it's not always. And it certainly doesn't mean that everything natural is better for your health. The most effective medicines we have to fight against disease and illness do not spontaneously produce in nature, but they are still incredibly beneficial for our health. And vice versa. Many natural products have been linked to serious side effects. For instance, the natural crop of kava used for anxiety has been found to cause liver damage. So, what are some other debunked facts that we missed? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out our social medias, including my personal ones, links in that description. And if you like this list, you need to click here for 25 facts about things you've always heard, but aren't true. So, kind of more of the same. Check it out.